And that's the house temp, 83.5, 28.6. So just for reference, that was the cool air, the hot heat sink on the top, and just the air underneath that's getting pulled in. Just to be clear, these won't cool an entire room. They only cool the space in front of you. The reason for that is you got the cool air coming out here, but you got the hot air coming out on both sides here and here to keep the bottom of the chip, or the hot side, cool. So you got the cool air, the hot air, and ultimately those just will recombine in the room over time, and the temperature in the room stays about the same all the time. But the heat will come out the sides and go up to the ceiling with this, and this just goes right on you because generally you'll be sitting right in front of it. So it's great as a personal space cooler like that, but just don't expect it to cool the entire room. Maybe a little bit, because the heat coming out of here will raise up to the ceiling and cool air sinks. So the living space is like the bottom half of the room. So it may be a little colder on the bottom, a little hotter at the top where you don't really feel it. But generally speaking, just think of these as a space cooler, like right in front of it. Like, that's awesome right there. I'm going to be editing the program in a minute here, and that's perfect. That's great. The wiring on this is easy, by the way. It's just the chip wires along with the two lighted fan wires all directly to the plug. And then the only thing that goes through the speed controller is this fan. So it goes in here and comes out here and goes in, and that's it. By the way, if you don't have the styrofoam, you can just use like blocks. Those are 2x3s, or even just a brick, a couple of bricks. Just a couple of final things on the build to wrap it up. One, I did try this with one fan, but that's nowhere near enough to keep the heatsink cool. The chip got way too hot, way too fast. So you got to use two fans. The other thing is that I tried the heatsinks up on end, like vertical and horizontal. Horizontal's way better. The air's like 10 degrees cooler instantly when you switch them this way. So go that way. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's probably because the aluminum is fatter on the bottom, so it's sinking the cool up a lot better. By the way, one last thing. When you saw the tinsel standing straight out in the video, that was just this fan running at about 3,000 RPM. And again, it goes up to 15,000, so just like 20% of its capacity. The reason I didn't run it any faster is it just kind of gets warm if you run it too fast. That's why the speed controller is essential. Because if you run it too slow, then yeah, it's really cold, but you don't feel it very far out. And if you run it too fast, then you feel the breeze, but it's kind of warm. The Peltier, if you're not familiar, is based on ambient air temperature in the house. So as that changes, you might have to adjust this occasionally.